And welcome back to another episode of Lost and Down, brought to you by Tabbies.com, the premier Delta 8 edible on the market, TABEASE.com. Make sure you use promo code football for 20% off that order, as well as free shipping. We have got a full house today. We got Wally, we got David, we got myself, but who cares? Boys, it has been a minute. So good to see you. How is everyone doing?
It's awesome to have the three of us together. It feels, you could even tell in the lead up to this, we're all a little revved up. Like, you got, like we say, high energy in the gym. Really excited. Plus, we actually have about as exciting of a week as you can talk about in the second week of June. So, not a lot, but better than nothing. But how about you guys? What's going on in your guys' worlds these days?
Not that much, but I just got to give a shout out to Steven here for calling the correct call last podcast and correctly assuming I was at a Bronco event in New Hampshire.
He listens
Steel
really
trap
well.
up here.
I was listening to that on my way, like, I don't know, a day after I got back, and I was chuckling to myself, like, he saw it on Instagram, which confirmed it, but, like, I'm shocked that either of you remembered I was supposed to be doing that.
It's sad, but nowadays it feels like every time people are out of town, it's for weddings. So yeah. I was just in like, oh, of course.
It wasn't.
He's up there for a
that
wedding.
Was definitely Plan B. If I was, if it wasn't the Bronco event, it was for sure going to be a wedding. Like,
the big giveaway that I completely missed on, and I hate myself for, is that you drove to New Hampshire. It wasn't a flight. So I should have really put that together, that you ain't going to be like driving up to New Hampshire. You're too big boy. You got too many bands in your pocket now to be driving to New Hampshire.
No, the only reason we drove to New Hampshire instead of flew was because to get to New Hampshire is either overly expensive to fly into their like regional airport, like stupidly expensive.
But do you actually get to New Hampshire in the airport? Or do you have to drive like 3 hours to wherever that's at after?
No, then it would have been an hour journey to the resort we were staying at. So it wasn't bad, but it was expensive as shit because you're flying to Boston or you're flying to like New York and then into and then you're flying into this tiny little airport. It'd be like flying into Akron, Canton from somewhere random, right? So the other option for flight would be fly to Boston and drive 2 hours. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, all right, we can spend $1,200 on flights, or we can just drive 10 hours and spend like $300 on gas. Like, I don't like driving. No, it was like 10 hours and 40 minutes, and then stops made it 11 and a half. Like, it wasn't terrible.
It's intimidating-ish because of how many states away.
Yeah.
Even though it's not necessarily that far.
Yeah, it was an easy drive, too, because, like, I don't know. 400 miles or something stupid, or 300 and however many miles are on I-90. So you're just hopping on 90 and you're just driving through Buffalo, and then you're driving through New York, and then you hit Vermont, and then you're in New Hampshire. It's like, it's easy. And you got to go through PA too. I missed that. So yeah.
Well, how was the drive? How was it scenic? I don't know about Wally, but I've never been on that side other than an hour south of Syracuse. Well, I've been to Syracuse, but that's really the most north I've actually gone. How was it? Until
you get to Vermont, the drive is stupid.
Erie, PA is gorgeous.
Yeah, the rust everywhere. No, it's honestly, Vermont and New Hampshire, fucking gorgeous. It's like being in Colorado or Utah. You're just driving up and down mountains. Like I guess I should have known, but I never really put it together with those two states about how like mountainous the region is. And when we were driving through Vermont and New Hampshire, it's just like every view is gorgeous. It's just forest and mountain, and then you like hit a town that's probably 20,000 people strong, if that, and then you'll hit a town that's like 5,000 people strong, and then there's 30 miles between those 2 points, and it's all just mountainous, like, state highway driving.
See, I was trying to find it, and I didn't pull it up fast enough, too. There, I know, is a place either in New Hampshire or Vermont, and it's, like, the windiest place in, like, the world outside of Antarctica. And it's, like, a really weird, like, corridor that, like, funnels wind. It's, like, one of the most dangerous places on Earth.
Vortex.
Yeah, I'm basically, yeah, sure, we'll call it a vortex. But there's so many cool, things like that where, for whatever reason, they're two, to me, of the states I forget most about. But they're probably two of the prettiest states in general in the United States. They're just kind of, they're northeastern blurb.
Well, there's nothing there. There's no reason to go to them unless you're skiing or unless you're doing, you're legitimately going out of your way to go to them. So,
or you're a minor league baseball stud.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, those two states were really cool. I actually think the Northeast, I think I underrate the Northeast a lot because I'm never there. But
plus, it's held down by New York City and Philly so much that I just forget about everybody else.
And Boston. All three of those cities could fall off the face of the world and the whole Northeast would be instantly better. Boston's cool, but sports-wise, it's also very fucking annoying. The entire city, sports-wise, hyper annoying. The city, without sports, very cool, very historic, very fun. But then you add in it's kind of like Philly. Philly's kind of cool as a city, but then you remember that the sports fans make you want to tear your eyes out. So then all of a sudden, Philly just gets shit on repeatedly.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, so New Hampshire was awesome for David. Steven, you've had a crazy few weeks. Anything new in your world?
Well, I know I dropped the bomb of the engagement here last week. Since then, from the engagement up until this point, started a new job, had to get licensed in property and casualty because it's a pet insurance company I'm working for. So the reasonable way to go is get licensed in property and casualty. Two things that cover nothing about pet insurance. The only time I saw pets while I was studying was in the inclusions part of these different insurances. It's wild. So got that out of the way. Got to do that. Now the fun really starts. Hopefully I get to be making some money, make some calls to vets, hook you guys up with some pet insurance. I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
It's bad that or maybe it isn't bad. I didn't know pet insurance existed until this moment. But I guess it makes sense because Laura Dolores with her Siamese cat, because she's hypoallergenic, that she paid $20,000 for. I'd imagine you probably want to have insurance so that thing don't just drop dead after a week living at home.
Well, exactly. Especially with cats, too. They're going to have a longer longevity than dogs will for the most part. You see dogs living a long time. But, yeah, that's the thing. That's mostly why I wanted to get into it. I knew pet insurance was a thing, but I didn't know pet insurance was a thing. Really, I've heard about it, but people are really starting to do it. And now, if you guys don't know about the story I've had with my dog, I probably between me and Kylie have probably almost hit 10K. We put into this dog already between surgeries, allergies. Hell, she had a seizure a couple weeks ago. We got to pour money and man, I wish I started this job a year ago because that probably would have saved me a lot.
One of the cutest dogs I've ever met, too, Impala, by the way.
To Wally's point, I didn't know pet insurance existed until 6 years ago when my mom got or 7, I guess at this point, when my mom got the first golden retriever of her 2. And, it was from a breeder with a long history of no cancers, no whatever, right? So you pay $2,000 for a dog, which is absurd, by the way. But whatever, I support it because I love those dogs more than anything.
If you got the money, I would love to do that, but I ain't got the money to be going to a breeder.
But she was talking about pet insurance. I'm like, that's a thing? She's like, yeah. Why wouldn't I insure something I just spent $2,000 on that could cost me $15,000 if something bad goes wrong? I'm like, good to know. Good to know.
Well, yeah, and even more especially bulldogs. I would love a bulldog, but I'm not getting a bulldog until I have fucking money.
You got to spend $4,000. You got to spend $4,000 to get a purebred. No, you got to spend $4,000 to get a purebred bulldog that doesn't have a medical history, and then so there's
impossible.
The only reason I know this. The only reason I know this is because we used to have an employee who had a bulldog who was freaking awesome, and that bulldog he used to sell its sperm for $500 a pop because it was a purebred, no medical history in its entire lineage. It was his semen. This thing was a money maker, but also a money pit. Like this thing, it was like $1,000 here, $1,000 there, but sold its sperm, made back like I don't know $1,000 a year doing it, and it's just insane. Bulldogs are one of the worst dogs to own, but also one of the best dogs to own at the same time.
That's why it's the best to have fuck you money with it, because you have to pay a lot of attention to it too. Like you got to clean the creases, right? You got to make sure that his breathing's okay. That's why they have the breathing problems. And same with
That's
like
a fat guy. I understand all of this completely.
Well,
I'm not attacking you guys. I'm sorry.
I think that it's funny too that you have like horses out there like American Pharaoh that had to win a triple crown against the most intense athletic animals on earth, and then you're gonna have 25-pound Chucky getting rubbed and tugged by its owner for $500 a pop. It's living the same life American Pharaoh is. The only difference is that one is Chucky and the other is a world-class horse athlete.
Shout out to, I can't remember the horse's name, can't remember the trainer's name, but I know this past weekend in the horse race that a woman trainer became the first woman to ever win it, and watching that video of her was electric, dude. That was awesome. I could not imagine being in that spot, being right next to her. It's so good. Anyone who hates on it, eat a bag of dicks, but just watching somebody just take so much pride, and dude, I could imagine talking about having fuck you money. That's something I'll never be able to own or be in the position to own, train, whatever it is. So shout out to her. I feel bad for not knowing her name right off the top of my head. I don't know if that makes me sexist or not.
Oh, well, you want to hear a sexist comment that's already at the top of my head is that
just the tip.
I think it'll be great when you consider the fact that you can have 15 horses put down at one of these like massive weekends. No one says a word, but you're going to have a woman trainer win. This is how you're going to get the rich old white guys to get horse racing to stop. This is how it's happening. Women trainers starting to win. Can't have it.
Oh my God. All right, we need to get into, we could talk about this. One last thing. Did you know that there's an underbite competition at one of the dog shows? And I'm pretty sure a bulldog won this past weekend. That it was on my mind while we're on it. Let's get down to the question.
Have one of those in
what do you do in your spare time to find this stuff out?
Underbite competition Google.
Is this like on your Twitter feed? Is that how you find this stuff out?
Yeah, no, I sent alerts specifically for women horse trainers, bulldog underbite competitions, as well as like Brazilian fart porn like Randy from South Park. Let's get this question out of the way. This is something that we've been debating about the past, it feels like at least 2 months. We just haven't been able to get a show that we can ask the question and finally get us all 3-on-1. The question is finally here that everyone can always argue about. What is the best time zone to live in and why? And also a side note, most of these arguments are going to be circulated around sports and why we think of that.
I mean, that's the reason why we're alive. Let's be real.
Yeah, and that's really the reason it all started too. Like we never talked about any other benefit outside of the sports timing. But I'll open it up to you guys before I get in here. Wally, David, whoever wants to go first. What is your preferred time zone?
Central. It's not even close. It's as somebody who's lived in the Central Time Zone for a significant period of time. Well, depending on what your term of significant is, but 2 years I feel like is significant.
It's significant enough.
That's 1/15 of your life. That's dog
There
shit.
is not a better time zone to watch sports, and across the board, all sports in. Because you get home from work, everything starts an hour earlier. You're watching games at like 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock, 6:30 instead of 7:30, 7:30 instead of 8:30 for Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. You are starting everything just a little bit earlier, and what that means is for championship games like the worst things that ever were established for Monday nights or Sunday nights. So the Super Bowl, college basketball championships, college football championships are all ending before 11 or before midnight. So you still get to have a full night of sleep before work instead of, for Super Bowl Sunday, you're at your friend's house at 11:30. You're not getting bed till 1 o'clock in the morning. So everything's an hour earlier. Now I get an extra hour of sleep being in the Central Time Zone, and I still get to enjoy all these great events. But it's the best also because of EPL soccer. I only got to get up at like 5, 6 a.m. to catch every single game that goes on. Whereas if I was in the Mountain Time Zone or if I was out west in California, I'd have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch soccer. Pass. Hard pass.
You'd just be a Bundesliga fan.
True.
Don't take my argument.
True.
Oh, damn, you got me.
But
all right.
Bundesliga is for farmers in Bayern Munich. I am all about the EPL. So it's Central is just perfect. There's no other way to put it. It is just perfect. The West has got to be the worst because some stuff starts at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't need that. Just like I don't need Champions League soccer to start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm working, but it does. So
it'd be noon in the West Coast. It starts at 3 normally here.
Yeah, I just, Central's just better. It's just better for all sports, top to bottom. It's the best.
All right, do you want me to pile on, or do you want to defend your case, whatever it is, Steven?
No, you can pile on before I just start spitting facts.
Well, I'm excited to hear what the facts could be. Just simply putting this enough, at least from my gauges, we're all in agreement that the East Coast is out, right? See ya.
Both coasts. Both coasts are out. Both coasts are just out. It is you're either talking Central or you're talking...
My man's an ass man. Oh, right in the middle.
And I am with you, too, because the East and West Coast, I think, yeah, there might be extreme great things about certain things, but there are going to be if I'm a Buckeye fan and I live on the West Coast, I have to be watching 9 a.m. Buckeye games. You can't get revved up for that. I've got East Coast time. If I want to watch USC, I have to stay up till 10:30 to watch a kickoff half the time. So both of those are brutal. It does come down to Central or the Mountain West time. And I've got to just go off personal experience now. With that time in high school, there's something just seriously special about having noon kickoff the NFL and still being done with your day by like 10 o'clock. It's a reasonable time. So everything goes with sports. Plus, I know this doesn't count because the sun changes wherever you live on the whole north and south thing. But being up in Milwaukee, having the sun in the summer, stay out until like 9:30, it's a game changer. You don't get that further down south. So I guess mine's almost cheating too. Because I'm like, go up to the Central and go up to Minnesota, go up to Wisconsin, eat some bad food and live your life.
Some might say the sun being out that late is why they're the worst state for drinking and driving.
Well, yeah. I mean, they literally had...
Are they?
Giovanni Gallardo.
Wisconsin?
By far.
Also, what else is there?
Wisconsin is so bad about drinking and driving. My insurance rates on my vehicle, I saved $100 a month by just leaving the state when I moved back to Cleveland.
It was a misdemeanor when, at least I was there in high school. You had Giovanni Gallardo get a DUI one night, and he was starting pitcher for the Brewers the next night. It was just like, that was normally you'd be like, wow, how did the fans respond? Not a good thing. We're not endorsing it. But the Brewer fans up there were basically celebrating the guy. They're like,
the team's name is the Brewers. What do you expect? Absolutely. Again, they're not condoning it. It's just you gotta pay respect when respect.
It's ironic, I guess, is the better way to put it. It's funny and a little ironic. But Steven, does that mean that you were going Mountain West?
It is, and I'm gonna kind of walk myself back a little bit because the original conversation we had, I was full Team West, West Coast. But no, give me Mountain Time, right? You got 2 full hours. I'm not I don't care what the mornings look like. Like for EPL, for instance, you'll have the earliest game starts at 7 here. 5. I gotta get up at 5 a.m. It's usually 1 or 2 games. All the other games circling at 9, 11:30. So 7, 9:30. I can live with that because that's a normal time. I'll just miss 1 or 2 games. I'm cool with that. Like Wally was saying, I like me some Bundesliga, baby. Outside of EPL, I think I would rather watch that league over any other league. Once you put EPL on their pedestal, right?
Well, how about Serie A? Is that in that time frame? Does that help you?
I think they're the same.
Oh, they are. See, I can never get the European time zones.
They're 9 to
right.
9:30 are typically when their first games kick off. Maybe
okay.
Or no, Serie A, I've seen some 6:30s, so they'll go at 3:30 or 5:30 if you're on the Mountain Time.
But still, that's better-ish.
Yeah, but like I'm not. David obviously has fandom to a team. I like RB Lesbeg, but I'm not like. I'm at the point in my life where I can't emotionally be invested in teams like I am in Syracuse and Green Bay. It's just not going to come that easy.
Don't make the mistake. As somebody who invested in Tottenham,
I know.
Don't make the mistake.
I will make the mistake, but Tottenham's the last person that I'm putting it on. Tottenham and Arsenal are my no-goes because I know they're just prone to getting your heart ripped out.
So you're going to be a Stoke City fan. Go Potters.
No, if I'm going EPL.
Well, yeah, I guess I can't say I'm an EPL fan.
Just do yourself a favor and pick the Saudis and just be a Man City fan. You
I'm a Miami. I'm a Miami
Congrats to
FC
Zach Youssef
fan,
on the trouble. Sorry.
But with that, it's like you give me 2 hours. Like I'm not a morning person, but I'm also not a night owl. But I'm somebody who likes. I'll get up. I'll get ahead of the game of you guys, right? Like I'm up a couple of more hours earlier. Like I'll get up at 7:30 on a weekend because I'm a psycho. Why? Just because I know that I'm gonna fall asleep by like 10:30, and I can just do it all over again. But the 2 hours, being out at shout out to Fonz when we were out there for his bachelor party out in Denver, we had the 4:00 game. It started at 2:25, which was so wild I still can't wrap my head around. But as great as the hour is in between that Central Time, push it back another hour. 8:30 game start at 6:30. I'm getting home, cracking the beer open, got the dinner going. Game's over at 11:30 Eastern, aka 9:30. I can still fuck around, throw an episode of Eric Andre on, throw an episode of I Think You Should Leave on, get a couple of those deep, go right back to bed. The thing is, and someone who's lived on the East Coast his entire life and has never gone through a time change outside of travel, the East Coast time sucks. Dude, you just feel like you're missing out, especially now. Like when Green Bay or Syracuse has like a 9:00 Tuesday game, or Green Bay's got a night game. I'm pissed, dude. I'm like, I gotta stay up. Like it starts at 8:30. Like think about it. If your friends invite you out during a weekday and they're like, yeah, we're gonna go grab some drinks. Meet me at this bar at 8:00. Fuck you, dude. I am staying home. 8:00. What are you, 20? No.
Okay, I will say that I'll give you the idea in your perfect world, the way you are as a person. I can understand Mountain West more. Where, as someone who likes to stay up later, I'm more of the guy that wants to hang out closer to that Central Time zone.
And it would suck for you guys because, like, being out in Vegas, we're like, hell yeah, let's get this party going, man. It's 8:00. Like, yeah, all the games are done. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah, we're
we
3 hours behind.
Yeah, like,
a game would start at 8, but like 10:00, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, the Ohio State Northwestern game kicked off at 9. And we're out the night before. I'm like, I don't want to wake up at 8 or even before that to get rowdy.
That's a situational thing. Every week, I think it might be a little bit too much. Situationally, you can do it just because you're in Vegas. That's the energy that we have. We were sharing a room. We were getting after it, doing some touchy stuff. But it was. I agree.
No, hold up. Before I let one idea slip me, I do think it's hilarious that. While you could make a case that East Coast time might be the, I guess, worst, you can make that case.
Second worst. West Coast is the worst.
I'm right there with you, but like it's close enough. But I do think it's hilarious too, and I know it's because we live here. It's East Coast time. Everything is East Coast time. It's our time, no matter what. Where the 1:00 slate, it's the 1:00 slate. It's like the Pope Francis meme. It's like the East Coast time is the time. It don't matter where we're at.
The world revolves around the East Coast time frame.
Exactly.
10-9,
but it's like
10-9 Central because you're.
But it was like to rub it in our face. 10:00 Eastern. Hey, it's 7:00 West Coast. Sucks for you guys.
Yeah, but we're like, we said ours first, so what's that really mean? I don't know.
You're not first or last.
Also, before we move on, in case nobody heard it, congratulations, Zach Youssef, on your team spending $2 billion to buy the treble.
Don't worry, Zach. I'll edit that out.
Don't worry, Zach. We're not going to edit that out. Let's get to the NFL news. We have a couple things. We'll get you 911. We'll get you guys the hell out of here. The best news that we have, the Vikings are, I don't want to say cleaning house, but they're not necessarily keeping their house tidy right now. Vikings are cut veteran running back in Dalvin Cook. reportedly fielding offers for Danielle Hunter. This is after they already announced that they don't plan on reworking Kirk Cousins' deal ahead of this 2023 season. We already talked about the last offseason or two of what the releases that they had between Adam Thielen. You got Anthony Barr. I feel like I'm missing someone else that they just let go too. Eric Kendricks.
Patrick Peterson, Dalvin Tomlinson.
Exactly. To stop me if we've said too much, but Minnesota acting like the NFC North isn't wide open going into this year. David, I'll toss it over to you. What are your thoughts about this Dalvin Cook release and the possibility of Danielle Hunter not being on that roster?
Well, I think it's wild if you bundle it with all the other losses. If we were talking about, they kept all the previous guys and now we're just cutting Dalvin Cook, it's a little different. But I guess let's start here. Cutting Cook is smart for the Vikings long term, right? I am a very pro don't pay the running back guy. I've been that since the day that they let me on this podcast, like the very first day, right? I don't like paying running backs unless it makes sense.
Before that, give yourself some
credit. Under $10 million contracts, I'm in. Anything over, send them to the curb, right? And so I like it, especially when you consider Madison probably gets them 70% of the production that Cook does, and you're losing. You're clearly losing, but you're not. It's not like you're starting with some rookie, unproven running back, right? You've got somebody in the room who's proven to give you probably about 70% of that production back. Danielle Hunter, that's a loss, but if you can get real assets back for him, then his departure is kind of a smart long-term play for the Vikings. Based on all these moves they've made this offseason, it feels like they're saying, okay, we acknowledge with this roster, we're not going to win a Super Bowl. However, if we retool correctly and we structure our cap correctly, we can be competitive until we rebuild. And, I get that argument. And then if you kind of look at it from the fact that they're now being run by an Andrew Berry protege who, oh, by the way, was a Sashi protege at one point, it is cut the fat, retool in the draft, sign once you've retooled, and let's rebuild in 3 years or less, 4 years or less. It would suck to be a Vikings fan right now, but you got to look at it from you got to look at it from 3 years out, right? You went all in on Kirk Cousins, so
that was their first problem.
But was it like if it all aligned? Kirk Cousins is good enough to be the Trent Dilfer that wins the Super Bowl, right? If it all aligns, right?
Well,
so
remember, they had Case Keenum. It's an upgrade from Case Keenum the year before on paper.
Yeah,
and they weren't going to get better. They were too good, but they were too good to get better in the draft. So he was the best option, and they went all in with it, right? So they did that, and I think it hasn't paid off for them in a Super Bowl, but I think it's paid off for them in the fact that they've been a very competitive team since they signed Kirk Cousins. They've been a playoff team multiple times. The problem is right now the Vikings kind of have to be really bad for a season, and hopefully that season is probably the one hopefully it's the one currently. Hopefully they're so bad that they can get a top quarterback, but let's say they don't. You want that season to be when you let Kirk Cousins go and you don't have a quarterback, but you've spent the draft like let's say they're a 6-win team this year. They're probably somewhere in, let's say they're an 8-win team and they're somewhere in like the 6 to 14 range in the draft. You're not going to get your franchise quarterback there, I don't think, in that draft. So you're probably going to go after filling holes, right? And then Kirk Cousins is gone the year after that. You have a really atrocious year. Now you can go get your quarterback in the draft and a top 3 pick. But you've now got defensive players or offensive players that you can build around once you get the quarterback, which is
Justin Jefferson. So how far out are you saying that
if you do this right, in 3 years they should be back to being a 12-win team. If you do it right.
Is if it's 3 years, and that is if you want to go the way you do. But Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and O'Connell might not have 3 years. I mean, you were especially if that turns into
I'm not saying. I'm saying in a
5.
perfect world. In a perfect world, you're probably looking at being a real serious playoff team. You got to also remember the NFC is weak. So this team currently constructed could be a fucking wild card team for all we know. You know, the NFC is so weak that you don't have to.
It's a
they could be a 3 or 4 seed.
Right. So this is like kind of a, we're going to see what kind of GM the Vikings just got from the Browns, because this is going to be you have a year to play around with the roster and do what you need to do. You have a year to show that you're improving, and then if you get the third year, that's your year to actually show that you've built a team. So I don't know. I think the Vikings long term, this is smart, but everything has to go decently well. They have to draft 2 or 3 starters in every draft. They have to make sure that Kirk Cousins is replaced with, I don't know, at least a rookie or at least a bridge quarterback when he's gone, because they're not going to re-sign him. Re-signing him would be dumb. He's going to get some stupid Jimmy Garoppolo money going to some team desperate for a quarterback. But it's going to suck for the next year or two being a Vikings fan, and I've been there, and I'm currently there. But like, look down the line, because if your GM is of the coaching or of the GM tree he came out of, it's going to turn out well. They're going to draft well. They're going to make smart cap moves. They're going to look down the line instead of what can we do right this second that's not going to immediately turn into a Super Bowl.
Well, that's what makes this a little bit. There's a couple things I kind of want to bring and dissect. It's the new GM you have with Kevin O'Connell. That gives me no confidence that Kevin O'Connell's job has security, because if these two come in together and they're cleaning this house, okay, we ride or die. We're going to have a couple years together to get it going. But to even go back to your trimming the fat, I agree with trimming the fat, but you are not trimming fat. You are trimming production. You are trimming team captains. You are trimming potentially take away, before Justin Jefferson got there, the best players on either side of the football right now. And for the fact that Minnesota is such a joke, that's why I had to cut in and said it's going to be a rough year for Minnesota. It's always a rough year. This is a team who's never won a Super Bowl. They have no hardware in any of their trophy cases, so it's constantly hard. I have to get a couple kidney shots in there, but it feels like at least 2 of the last 4 or 5 years, when this Vikings team is close, let's clean house. Let's get Kirk Cousins. Let's get rid of Stephon Diggs. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yes, it automatically filled in with Justin Jefferson, but now you're leaving Dalvin Cook, who since 2017, 4th in rushing yards, 6th in touchdowns, 10th in reception yards. But you got to remember, he also tore his ACL in his rookie year, 4 games in. So maybe a couple of these would be a little bit higher, and all of them are top 5, top 4, top 3 in these spots if you never missed that time. But then my biggest question mark is the Danielle Hunter. What's the issue? And with what the NFC North is looking like, right? You have a fantastic offensive line in Detroit. You have an extremely solid offensive line in Green Bay, who has a mobile quarterback now. And yes, Chicago has a horrific offensive line, but the most mobile quarterback in the division, in the conference. I'll let you know here in a few months, potentially in the league, if depending on how Lamar Jackson looks. You need a guy of this caliber, Danielle Hunter, to be on this roster. I don't want to take too much away of what Wally has on here, because I love the stats that he's going to be able to present. But the things that we always talk about, which we always agree on, right? Not paying a running back, we can all check that box. You need a running game and to get after the quarterback to be a winning team. With a team that has Kirk Cousins as quarterback, who I have backed, yes, but we're all not blind to the fact that he just simply isn't the guy to get it done. You're taking more away from him, expecting more, and now you're setting up Kevin O'Connell, who I think could actually be a really good coach in this league. Now you're going to set him up for failure, and now you're setting the whole organization up for failure. Yes, I agree with David that 3 years down the road it could look great, but 15 months down the road, this could look like a complete dumpster fire and a completely different team than what we were talking about right now.
100%. And my only counter to that is, if you look at their cap situation, even after these moves,
which is what I haven't even looked at it. Do you have it on?
They're middle of the
right
league.
Now.
They're middle of the league. but they're middle of the league for the next 3 years.
They're
so
top
like
10
because of Kirk
after this year. They're top 10 after this year.
Is it because of Kirk? I take it.
I was just looking at it. They were it might be after they make these cuts, they're top 10 again. But so you're opening up cap space, which is important, and Danielle Hunter has been there since 2014. So you're talking about a guy who might be able to put up 10 sacks a year still as we go forward, but you're betting against that, right? So when you make that move, you're saying, all right, this guy's been in the league for 9 years. How many more?
I did not realize that. Good call. I thought he was like 23.
How many more 10-sack seasons do we have, right? And if the answer is 3, okay, great. But how much value can we get? Can I get 2? Can I get 1? Can I get a first-round pick back for him, right? So absolutely. Can I get a first-round pick back for him right now? Absolutely. Can I get a second round on top of that? Maybe. Can I get a third round on top of that? Probably. Like, how much value are we getting selling him and just going back into the draft and just saying, again, I'm not saying the Vikings are a playoff team this year. They might be a 7-win team if I had to bet on it. I don't know what their schedule looks like. I have no idea, right? I called them frauds all of last year. I knew they were frauds last year, but so did they, clearly, based on the moves they made this offseason. So now it is, how do we retool the roster in 3 years or less? And at that point, you got to basically say, trim the fat, don't pay anyone that shouldn't be paid extreme contracts, i.e. your Dalvin Cook, and collect as many assets as possible. Danielle Hunter might still be on the team in 3 years. We don't know. But if you're going to go, throw his name out there. We're 9 years or 8 years or whatever it is into his career. How much can we get back for him now? If it's not as much as we want, great. Let's extend him, let him ride it out in Minnesota. But, you got to go out there, you got to look, right? Because he's not gone yet. They're out there, they're looking. What can we get for him? Because we're at a crossroads where you have to retool this team completely differently to get over the hump. They are not even close to Philly. They're not close to 7 AFC teams. They can't beat these teams as currently constructed. So, yeah, you got to get rid of everyone, even the good players, even the productive ones, and we got to rebuild and retool. And there are teams that do it very well because it all comes down to the draft. And if it comes down to the draft, then you better retool with assets, which means giving up Danielle Hunter for a first-round pick or a second-round pick or whatever you can get back in return for a highly productive pass rusher.
I disagree with a lot of what both of you are saying. So, first of all, let's go back to Steven. You said that every time it feels like this team gets close, they tear it down.
Well, at least 2 of the last 4 years between the Minneapolis Miracle and then this past year.
Actually, even disputing the Minneapolis Miracle one. What I am disputing is that they're close now. And I understand the NFC is weak.
That's mostly why.
Yeah, but this is also a regime that feels very self-aware that last year was a fluke and that they were one of the luckiest NFL teams we've ever seen. And that got them to 13 wins. Did they end up finishing?
1-score games, something like that?
Well, I was going to say, did they finish with the negative point differential, or were they just slightly above? Because they were 13-4.
But we were
negative or flat.
Going into the final weeks of the season, they were in the negative point differential.
And that is my point.
It was after that blowout by Dallas. They were negative almost the rest of the season.
Well, every time they lost a game this year, they were blown out in the regular season, and then they were winning games by 3, 4, 5 points. The reason I brought that up is just because from that side, I don't think they're close, and I think it'd be foolish to go hard right now. What I would also push back to David is though you're making this seem like it's more of a like doom and gloom, like they're going to get into like the Arizona sadness factory of the world, where I think this is a soft retool.
That's what I guess that's what I meant, like, to come off as. If I came off as if they're going to win 3 games, no. They're like a 7-win team next year as currently constructed. I don't think they're better than that. If they are, you can disagree with me. But it is absolutely a soft retool. But they've got to go out and they've got to get assets if it's going to be a soft retool, which is why Hunter's on the block.
Well, and that's fair because, first of all, yeah, he is getting up there. You don't want to risk basically letting him stick around too long. You almost want to do what Bill Belichick did. But this is the team that, if a lot of people might forget this, it's one of the only two teams with Philadelphia that has all 5 of their offensive linemen homegrown, drafted. It is a team that has kind of really got a strong identity, and you and I are of the same mind with running backs, where I am not even batting an eye about Dalvin Cook. And this offense, I truly think, especially given that Kirk Cousins is in another contract year, this is going to be an offense that's pretty fun. And you brought in Jordan Addison to play opposite of Justin Jefferson, which day one can be an upgrade over Adam Thielen at this stage of his career. So the defense was so bad that with all these big names that were good at one point and now aren't going to be there, I think it's less of a, like a gut punch as it might appear. I think this is we won't be great this year. Like you said, we go hard in free agency next year, and maybe you do the whole let's draft a quarterback. It doesn't have to be top 10. We can draft a second-round quarterback. Teams are buying into this Jalen Hurts thing and like how he is. You could see them take that approach and say, hey, we're going to try to win with a rookie quarterback on the rookie deal and go from there. So I just think this is a quiet punt on 2023.
Before we move on to our next story here, let's get in. I know we have plenty of opinions on this, but Dalvin Cook landing spots. What are some possibilities, maybe your top 1 or 2 spots that you're really sold on that Dalvin's going to end up in?
I got 5. I got all 5, baby.
That's what I was trying to say too, but all right, go get it.
Number one, Dolphins. Going back to Florida makes a lot of sense. The Dolphins are after star power. They're trying to win now. I don't know if they can afford him because Dalvin Cook literally came out and said he wants like $11+ million a year or something. New York Jets, same idea. They've got 2 years with Aaron Rodgers at most. They got to win now. Go get a running back. Breece Hall, great, but coming off ACL injury. Go get a proven guy. That's kind of what I'm thinking for them. Buffalo Bills have been in the conversation. They've never really had a formidable run game outside of Josh Allen running the football. This could be their solution, but again, $11 million a year. I don't know if it fits the Buffalo Bills to do that. Bengals, unlikely, untalked about, feels like a perfect weapon to throw into the Bengals.
I love that pick, by the way.
However, again, $11 million plus a year, long-term deal, probably not going to happen for them. But I really like it if they can convince him to do like 1 year, $10 million, $12 million, $13 million. I think that would be the most well-built offense, like your best offense statistically in history since the New England Patriots had Randy Moss and Gronk. There wouldn't be a weakness on that offense outside of the tackles. Chicago Bears because of the cap space. That's it. Chicago Bears because of the cap space. They can give him the long-term deal he's looking for, and it would be probably an upgrade based on what they currently have. It would give Justin Fields a weapon at the running back position, not in terms of running, but in terms of passing. It gives him a dump-off option that can get him a lot of yards after catch and be a good option for his weak receiving core.
I'm giving 2 dark horse quick options not mentioned, and that being the New York Giants, with the possibility that Saquon is not happy in his contract situation and might sit out. They could turn around and give that money they were expecting to give him and try to at least be competitive this year. And my second option being, why not go and pair up with his brother, James Cook in Buffalo? They have a similar skill set that is very advantageous for what the Bills are trying to do offensively right now. And because of the way contracts work nowadays, you can basically front load this with rosters incentives, and we don't have to even sweat about the cost. So those are my dark horse teams here, Buffalo and, of course, the New York Giants.
So this one is interesting. I really, as you guys heard me say, I really like the Bengals. It just makes so much sense. You got Samaje Perine gone. You got the questionable Joe Mixon, who's still on the roster, but it's Dalvin. Dalvin Cook is going to go to Miami. Duh.
You married that idea.
Oh yeah, I've been married. We have a couple kids, dog, fenced in backyard, everything. That is mine. But no, I mean, to David's points, the hometown kid, it would make the most sense. They have been linked to each other since before the draft. Like, we've already seen this coming, that he was going to get cut. There was no surprise, hence why there was no trade. Kind of like the DeAndre Hopkins type deal that we talked about here last week. It's when everyone sees that no one's going to trade for him, why would somebody do it? Because they know they can get him for way cheaper. Even though they want 11 mil, once July comes around, he realizes he can't get that contract, then he's going to settle, go to Miami. At the end of the day, guys, we know who's really going to go get him. The Atlanta Falcons.
Well, I mean, what? Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, Dalvin Cook. I mean, you got Arthur Smith is already living in his own.
Arthur Smith. Play. We need defense.
Triple option Wildcat every fucking play. It's like you're playing NCAA 08 against all your friends again.
That Dalvin Dirty Bird, baby. It would be nice. It would be nice, but it's just not going to happen. Let's get some more NFL news here. Yeah, boy. At least my boy, Frank Clark, staying in the AFC West, leaving Kansas City, which has got to be nice, but signing with the Denver Broncos. 1 year, 5.5 fully guaranteed, but it can be bumped up to 7.5 based on incentives. Guys, third leading all-time sacks leader in the playoffs. God, did I even get that out right? Okay, sorry. I've been studying. You should see the content that I had to study the last couple weeks. It's been horrific. A lot of run-on sentences, so that's why I'm continuing to talk. But all of a sudden, Denver adds a guy. Don't forget that they added Randy Gregory here last year in the offseason. Let's see what Frank Clark's going to add. What do you think? Wally, we'll toss it to you, a resident AFC West guy. What are some feelings or just some overall feedback about this?
Good value. It is good value. They got him at a fair price. But we have to remember, too, that playoff run is muddling people's brains. Because this isn't Frank Clark of 5 years ago. He had a bad season. He had 5 sacks last year, playing next to arguably the best defensive player in football right now. I know Aaron Donald, probably best ever interior defensive line.
He was hurt, though.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Chris Jones he's at that point where he's passing him up at, like, this stage.
It's 1A, 1B, and we're splitting hairs, but, Chris Jones is wildly underrated compared to the top.
He absolutely is. But more or less, my point is that when you're playing directly next to a guy like that, you should be able to do what Leonard Floyd and what Von Miller were able to do in that Super Bowl run, and that is feast. Frank Clark, I don't know what it is. He feels like he's missing a step. PFF grade low. Like I said, 5 sacks. Missed a couple games. I was all over this team last year to be in 4th place in this division with an underwhelming play out of Russell Wilson. They'll be better than the Raiders this year. But that's not saying much. No. And they're going to be the 3rd team in this division. They're still a 7 or an 8-win team in a good world if you're a Denver fan. Enjoy your Nuggets winning the title tonight because that's it. You're done after that. You're back to Broncos football. It's Orange Crush again. Let's get back to the 9-9 playoff or fans leaving the game early in overtime. Feed it to me. Anyways.
Agree and disagree, I guess. I don't really disagree with a lot of what you said. I like this move for the Broncos. Great move for the Broncos. I hate this move for Frank Clark, who should have been looking for a longer-term deal, even for less money. You're at the point in your career where if this season doesn't go well, you lost a lot of money by not going for a 3 or 4 year deal. I don't know if it was out there. I don't know if it was out there.
He's about to set that record. Like his ego's so big, you can't talk
everybody else
that.
Out there is like that 33 plus. Like like Jadeveon Clowney's still out there. I think passing him up for Frank Clark is better. I want to say there's a couple other guys that are just kind of skimming right now, like your Justin Houstons, who are just really trying to get the veteran minimum just to play for.
They signed him because of Baron Browning. That injury that happened in his knee surgery just a few days ago, people that might be listening to this are probably a lot of them are Buckeye fans or Buckeye haters. You might remember Baron Browning because he was actually an off-ball linebacker at school before he got moved to being edge rusher this past year. And some of the stats coming out, I listened to Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, and they have a great podcast together too. But they talk about how he has a top 10 get off in all of the NFL right now. He's who I'm excited to watch next year, not the bag of bones that's Frank Clark. No, I'm done. I'm done.
That's
we're
a hot
talking about this
exaggeration
guy
on
like
how
he's
bad Frank
35.
Clark is.
This dude is 29. He is, I'm surprising that his market wasn't better to David's point, right? I thought he could have at least got a little bit better. This could either go in Denver's favor or they're gonna kiss him goodbye after this. But him staying in the division, being able to play against Kansas City, played into this contract. And the way the edges are getting paid, yeah, this is mind-blowing that he only had this contract. Let me say this. Let me mark it right now. Where's the clip marker? We got the mark clip. Mark clip right here. Frank Clark is going to break the playoff sacks record in the second round against the Kansas City Chiefs this year in the playoffs when Denver makes it.
I was going to say, who does Denver trade him to? Because there's no chance in hell.
That's why I clipped it, baby.
You were smart to add in Denver because you were setting yourself up. No way.
I know.
You're buying in to Denver the way you did with Atlanta 3 years ago, Steven.
Look, Denver is simply
or
just
the way
a
I
Russell Wilson.
last year.
Denver is
Fair.
simply just a Russell Wilson rediscovering himself from being a playoff team, but
Thank you.
that's what they were last year.
Why do we think
Nathaniel
he's going
Hackett
to?
or Sean Payton? And I know that, and I know I'm talking like
I know you and I we're very low comparatively
on
to the
Sean
world.
Payton, but it's like two lows equals a high. It's like we'll get to another.
If you go through the ground like far enough, you go into the sky in China.
Exactly.
Look, the 2-3 wins against the Raiders are going to mean something for Denver.
It's all about the divisional
They'll
record.
still split with Vegas.
And the Chargers are going to do something Chargers-like because there's no way that they think Brandon Staley, that team thinks Brandon Staley is going to be the guy. They're going to do something, a little collusion, blow a couple games. Brandon Staley's gone. Then I don't know who goes in up next. Maybe Bieniemy? Maybe Bieniemy becomes the head coach after he gets fired when Washington staff gets fired after a 4-12, 4-13 year.
Yeah, how about that? Did you guys see this last week? This isn't on the show notes, but Sam Howell, it's quietly sounding like he's getting less of the push from Ron Rivera because, of course, Ron Rivera is in love with the veteran Jacoby Brissett. He loves himself like an average.
Everyone loves Jacoby until the fourth quarter.
He loves himself a veteran step-in
Jacoby's a
30-year-old
dog.
guy that can win 7 or 8 games for you a year.
Jacoby's
it's like
a
the
dog.
perfect Ron Rivera.
Yeah,
coach.
as long as you win the game in the third quarter, because the fourth quarter comes around and he's going to throw 5 interceptions.
Oh, I'm David. I'm mad my head coach doesn't hand the ball off to Nick Chubb, so it's Jacoby Brissett's fault.
That's getting clipped, too.
Yeah, you have to.
He didn't even say anything because he's like, damn it.
You had to take that
No,
one
I
off
don't
the
care
chin.
about not handing off. I will clip you all 5 interceptions last year that Jacoby Brissett forced and he didn't have to. In
5
the fourth
interceptions
quarter,
in
on a
one
game-winning
season?
drive.
Well, the Chargers one hurt. Speaking of the Chargers, that one sticks out where they already go for it on your end. What? I think on their
I don't
own
want to talk
43.
about it.
Yeah, that's
Fuck
fine.
the
like some-
Browns. Fuck the Browns.
Well, why would
Love you anyways, David.
why would your coach set you up for failure? Just kind of like Kyle Shanahan sets up his quarterbacks for failures or knee injuries. Do you hear that though? The siren is here, just to put the fire out on David because of all the burns. I'm sorry. Here's another one. We got the 911 rapid fire. Before we get into it, we want you to know that this rapid fire segment is brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in high-end branding, fashion, photography, and more, especially if you're our age where it feels like there's a college graduation, engagement, babies, pictures, high school graduations, wedding. Every single weekend it is happening. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check it out for yourself at abbyturnerphoto.com. That's ABBEY. We're on our Instagram at Sawdad and Sapphire. Again, abbyturnerphoto.com. I think she's got some new stuff out there. I saw her posted on the Sawdad account here about a week or two ago.
Parlay Princess.
Parlay Princess is back on her bullshit, as some people will say. 911 rapid fire. Josh Allen, we're kind of alluded to here a little bit earlier, is officially the cover for Madden 24. We all know the Madden curse. The Madden curse is real. Just as much of the main response I got from Buffalo Bills friends and fans, I said nothing's more cursed than the Buffalo Bills. Maybe these cancel it out, and it's Bill season this year.
I've given up on the Madden curse. I feel like it's been, I don't know, it's been
real.
dead for me for like 5-ish years or so. I mean, here it is. If the Bills don't win it all this year, it's because of your cover athlete and not because of an injury to your cover athlete.
I just feel bad that the Bills are going to feel the effect of the Madden curse when they need a perfect season, given that their division just got revamped and they might be the third best team on paper.
I can't wait until we get to our picks for our records and all that here in about a month. I'm going to be like blowing people's minds with the AFC East. It's like the AFC West last year for me. I'm not buying the smoke. But anyways.
You're right. Fuck Aaron Rodgers. I agree. Anyways,
there you go.
Next one up.
Jaguars. They ain't making the playoffs.
Jaguars unveil their Stadium of the Future plans. Their lease is up in 2029. What do we got, boys?
The Jacksonville Jaguars are the equivalent of that one buddy you're watching a game with and he bet the over and there's a quick score in the first period, and they're just like, God, I'm a genius. Let's see how the rest of the game goes. Don't act like 15 months ago you weren't trying to shoot yourself, questioning what Trevor Lawrence was, questioning why you had Urban Meyer. All of a sudden you're like, yep, new stadium time. Do you see Trevor Lawrence? The way we had that comeback in the playoffs, it's that time. You were ready to sell yourself 3 years ago. Look at you now. Insert Paul Rudd Hot Ones meme.
Jaguars aren't doing this unless they experience consistent success. They have one of the worst incomes in the NFL, and I think it's bottom 3 overall when you account for like metro population, if you were going to break it up by like who lives in the city and should be a fan of the team. They're definitely going to do a cool stadium, I have no doubt, but it's not going to be Vikings, Raiders, Dallas cool. It's not going to be what rendition photo they sent out. It's just going to be a really cool, up-to-date stadium, and that's it.
You're right. The Jaguars are going to have a beautiful stadium in 2030 in London because there's no way.
Ooh,
that's another thing, too. Yeah,
that's a good twist. Didn't even consider that.
I'm telling you, tinfoil hat time. Their lease is up in 2029. They're going to do this similar to how the Bears, Adam Alfonso, all you Bears fans, you know what I'm talking about. They float these Arlington Heights ideas. They're these phenomenal renderings that they know won't get passed. And these Jacksonville guys know that they're not going to pass these, but they're going to be able to do the whole, well, we tried our best. We really wanted to stay in Jacksonville. Bullshit. They're already saying God save the king. J.J. Watt. He is inducted, or will be, into the Texans Ring of Honor in a really cool way. They're waiting to do it until week 4, until guess who's in town? The Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ and Derek Watt. Awesome story. Best Texan of all time, right? I know it's early, but...
When you think of Houston Texans, you think of J.J. Watt. You think of Andre Johnson,
yeah.
And you think of David Carr being the first actual bust, at least in our generation. Like, if you think about it, David Carr was the first bust for us. Yes, personally, yeah, Jamarcus Russell, and I can't remember what the difference is. Like,
offensive line.
2 or 3 years ago.
Courtney Brown was rough.
Courtney Brown?
That was
oh, God.
First overall, maybe, for the Browns.
I was going to say, was that 98 or 99? Maybe 2000.
That was later. That was like...
they weren't a team in 99, so...
you might be right. It might have been late 90s, but I thought that was like right after the Tim Couch draft.
I'll get our stats department on this here in a second.
But to what you said, Wally, I could not agree more. He is the best Texan ever, and yes, they have a short-lived history in the NFL, but this is a no-brainer. You bring J.J. Watt in there. He's going to be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, best Texan ever. And the other thing is, he loves that city and organization for some weird reason.
I mean, look what he did for Hurricane Harvey.
Exactly.
That
look
was
what they did
unbelievable.
Look what they did. Oh, man, thanks for raising millions. you're cut to go to Arizona.
Well, yeah, thank God he went to Arizona instead of the Chargers, or who knows what would have happened with this heart situation. But last thing we have today for you guys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the first time since 2012, the Creamsicles are coming back. Detroit, they're playing them week 6. We're going to get to see them at least 1 week this next year. And guys, I got to tell you, this has to be one of the best uniforms in sports. And the way I know that is it is universally beloved. And I can't tell you a happy memory for Bucs fans that ever happened in them. And they still love the uniform. All right. That's all I have on it.
Agreed.
I love the creamsicles. I'm not an orange creamsicle guy, like the flavor, the food, whatever it is, but
really,
just like orange, just like resident slut of orange, David. I am also a slut for orange. And give me a little light tint. Oh my God, yeah, no, give me that. And then you add in the Honolulu blue. I would hate to be anyone who's colorblind for this game.
Woo. I'm excited already.
Baker creamsicle.
Oh, don't tempt us into buying a couple.
That will be my Christmas gift from one of you. I'm hoping.
Yeah, well, if
fuck
I
a
find
Christmas
it out
gift.
there.
Let's get, bro. You can go on DHgate. We'll get it. We'll get it to you before the season because I need. Because I haven't forgotten, and I'm a man of my word. There's a little bit of communication breakdown. I need to get on DHgate. So unfortunately, I got to get the Bears jersey for the opening game this year.
I forgot Robbie Gould, right?
That's the one that people are requesting. And when I mean people, I mean the devil that people call Adam Alfonso is requesting that. So yes, he's everything but without the pitchfork or trident.
He's amazing for that. I'm actually really impressed with that pick. Round back stat department found out it was the year 2000 for Courtney Brown being drafted number 1 overall.
That makes sense.
And that's going to bring us to another end of an episode of Loss of Down. Make sure that you comment, like, subscribe on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Loss of Down. And our Twitter, make sure you're retweeting at down_loss. Shout out to our sponsors at tabbies.com as well as Abby Turner Photo. Guys, let us know what time zone you want to get in, what you think about the Creamsicles. We're lining up some interviews here, hopefully. Boys, Denver going to finish it off tonight. It's a Himmy Butler game for me.
I don't think the NBA or NHL Finals goes beyond 5.
Both Miami
Agreed.
teams in the 3-1 hole right now. It is rough.
One last thing for you guys, because I had to deal with the pain. I figured you guys would get a chuckle. I wanted to read a couple things from Warren Sharp today. That is at Sharp Football on Twitter.
If you guys don't follow Warren Sharp, I'm actually happy you don't because a lot of the info that we use here is from him. So you guys probably
just like
think
don't listen to this at all.
You know what? Yeah, no, Warren. Nah, you don't want to listen to Warren Sharp. You just want to listen to us and just believe those are our stats. But no, sorry, Wally. I love that dude.
Oh yeah,
he has the dream job. His office
really
is
does.
BetMGM,
which is just phenomenal. But here, I've got this short thread about the Raiders today that made me brutally sad. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the tweets come up here. Losses after blowing a touchdown plus halftime lead last year. An NFL record 5 times for the Raiders. Next couple teams was Tampa and Baltimore 3. The Raiders led by double digits in 5 games last year. They lost 4 of the 5.
Got that one right, though.
The rest of the NFL was 84-9. Then here you go. I have one more that I just couldn't believe. The Raiders actually had a losing record in games they led by 13 or more points.
If all I'm hearing... sorry, you got more?
No, I mean, that was about it. I'm just sad.
All I'm hearing is you are taking...
I have one more.
You are taking the Raiders plus money all year. Just like I'm going to take the Vikings. Whoever's playing the Vikings this year, and it's that 2.5, 3.5... I am taking because a team that goes 10-1, whatever their record was, in one possession games does not.
You know they'll lose this year. Yes.
Carolina is the only anomaly who's done it in like 2 or 3 past years. Because even when they got Steve Wilkes at the end, they were covering. But what was the last fact, Walter?
The last one might actually baffle me most of all, which is really brutal. The Raiders had a losing record when leading by double digits in the fourth quarter. They led in the fourth quarter by 10-plus points in 7 games. They went 3-4. The rest of the NFL went 173-33.
June 12th, 2023 at 8:24 p.m. Eastern, 8:24 p.m. Pacific time, the best time. Wally officially translates to a New Orleans Saints fan because Derek Carr is his man.
Look, we got to talk about how the double-digit fourth quarter lead thing, though. They have 4 losses of the 33.
I was next to Wally when they blew it in Vegas. It was hysterical.
I know, but realistically, they probably only had 2 more losses than the next. Like everyone had to have one, right?
Well, yeah. Here was the other one.
The Ravens were right behind them, right?
Well, here was another one. Thank you for asking, David. The Raiders had a losing record in games led by 13 or more points. Losses after leading by 13 or more points last year. The Raiders had an NFL record 4. There were 5 teams with 2.
I thought the Ravens had 3 or 4 last year because
Ravens had 2.
I thought it was 3. I thought it was like 3 or 4
Ravens won. Ravens won 2 games that they were up by.
They blew and then they unblew.
All I think about is that amazing game against the
Ravens' fourth quarter
Dolphins.
differential wasn't good.
One of the greatest games I've ever watched. Regular season. One of the greatest games I've ever watched that meant nothing to anything.
Pretty much. Go Raiders. Just win, baby.
I think the Raiders should collectively figure out how to kill Dan Snyder because that's the real reason they suck.
It's one of them, but I mean, hiring Josh McDaniels wasn't exactly great.
Wouldn't have had to do it. Wouldn't have had to do it if Dan Snyder didn't exist.
The old domino effect.
I give up.
Hey, look at this 60-year-old using slurs. Who would have ever saw it? With that, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, fucking Jerry Jones, whatever.
Dude, Jerry Jones. You're going to tell me the only difference...
Shoots people who come with camcorders. He's got like that mob mentality. You get patted down when you come in a room with Jerry Jones.
The only reason Jerry Jones isn't in trouble is because he's too old and dumb to have a paper trail. How do I work this email? I used to typewrite letters back in my day. He
says it out loud. There's no trail.
There's no trail.
Jerry, can you say that again? My camera was off. What? Damn it. This geriatric fuck doesn't remember his last sentence.
Sweet, I'm dead inside.
Yeah, welcome to my life.
Love you guys. We'll see you next time.
I'll drink to that.